NFL free agency has shaken up the fantasy football landscape. Who are the winners and who are the losers? All this and more on tonight's In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the fun, check your stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. And so I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it's got me fading between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is March 14th, 2023. NFL free agency has shaken up fantasy football. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it all tonight. Darren Waller, he's a giant. The New York Jets just got a little bit friskier with Alan Lazard joining the squad. And we're just getting some breaking news here on the show. Dave Montgomery, now a Detroit Lion. We're going to break it all down and more tonight. Excited to chat with everyone in the chat tonight, tuning in live, or if you're listening to the audio recorded version, thank you guys for joining us so much. Seth Woolcock back here on the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, and I'm joined by a man who wrote just yesterday that he believes tight end Jawan Johnson is about to set the Big Easy on fire. Straight quotes there from Nate. Strong take aside. We are also thrilled to welcome back to the podcast Matt Ward of BrotoFantasy and DFF. Matt, how are you doing on this evening? I know you're up there in Canada, but down here in the U.S., we are now at the time where it doesn't get dark at 6 p.m. anymore. So vibes are high as we head into this fantasy football offseason frenzy, my friend. How are you?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. Yeah, it's starting to get a little lighter out in the evening, so that's good to see. Good to see the hopefully no more false spring. Yeah, happy to be here. It's always fun joining you guys. This is one of my favorite places to be, so.
I appreciate it, man. You're bringing the good vibes for us today. Nate, how are you doing? A little under the weather last week. Are you back in the saddle, ready to hit it hard here?
I'm feeling much better. And man, these first couple days, while some of the free agency stuff has been, we've seen a lot of like shoring up lines, shoring up defenses, but we're about to get into the bread and butter of it here in the next couple of days. And like, man, some of these signings have just been nuts. So we've got a lot to talk about. I'm really stoked.
Yeah, we got our guy Kyle, audio editor extraordinaire, in the background tonight. Kyle, you're holding on to your last hope of Aaron Rodgers remaining a Packer. How are you with all that news considered here today?
Honestly, I'm kind of indifferent. If he goes, he goes. If he stays, he stays. I don't care at this point. It's gone on long enough.
Okay.
I mean, you've got Jordan Love. What are you worried about?
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
It'll be all right, Kyle. We're sending you good vibes. We're sending the entire IBT family good vibes. Got Albert in the chat already saying good evening. We got Didi in the chat saying hello as well. Good to see you both tonight. Hope you guys are staying warm here. We're loaded, guys. Absolutely loaded. We're going to talk about these breakdowns from day 1 and day 2 of the legal tampering period. We're going to take a look around the rumor mill right now. Austin Eckler, could he be on the move? A lot of running back movement possibly coming your way. And we'll round it out with a free agency edition of Ring of Fire. That's our drinking / little improv game that we like to play here. And want to welcome in Dave, Toronto Dave in the chat as well. Good to see you, our friend. We appreciate you tuning in.
Boy.
And guys, we are still running the Keyshawn Nixon giveaway. He just signed back. He will be with the Packers. So if you want to get on that, Kyle's going to drop that in the chat, the link that you can get in on that giveaway. You just got to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel and then go here and just click yes. Drop your email and we'll make sure we enter you in that. We want someone to win it. Right now we got one. We got one entrant. So that person is winning 100%. So if you're the next person in, Matt, if you want to enroll, you got a 50-50 shot at this chance.
I'm going to do it.
Let's go, baby. Keyshawn Nixon, excited to have him back. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into it here. Let's waste no more time and get into a little bit of front and center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between.
How about you come to the place we can have some fun? Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. Come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
All right, breaking news. It didn't stop here. As soon as I woke up, I was getting some alerts, and it's been all the way up to the show now. We're trying to stay caught up, but I think there was no bigger fantasy football news today than Las Vegas tight end Darren Waller trade to the New York Giants, gentlemen, for pick number 100. Essentially, this is Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller is what this comes back to. It's exciting. With Daniel Jones, we talked about him last week. He got the bag. They're adding pieces already around him. But should we mind the hype, Matt? Because Waller only played over 60% of his games the last 2 seasons, and only had over 3 TDs once in his career as well. However, this is the tight end 2 and the tight end 3 from 2019, 2020. Does Waller still have it here in New York, you think?
I actually love this landing spot, and I think it's one of the better ones for him in free agency. There's so many holes in that wide receiver room that this is a de facto wide receiver signing. They can only do so much in the draft with the capital that they have, and obviously giving this pickup is going to diminish some of those choices as well, especially when it comes to bolstering their wide receiver room. We've seen Jacoby Myers, who I'm sure we'll get into, find a home, and Alan Lazard find a home now. So those are essentially the 2 biggest wide receiver signings on the free agent market as well. The wide receiver free agency market is thin. Yeah, I do think Darren Waller still has some juice. And even if he doesn't, as far as my dynasty perspective mind goes, this certainly boosts his value up. And if you're of the mind that he doesn't have any juice left, then this is probably a good time to cash out as the market is adjusting.
Yeah, great point there. From a redraft perspective, Nate, where do you rank Darren Waller? To me, he's obviously behind the big 4 at the top. However you want to stack them, Travis Kelce being in the top of that list, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, and George Kittle, I think would be that top 4 group. Does he slate in right around that group, or is he down another tier for you?
You know, I might put him in that tier ahead of Kyle Pitts if we're going to talk about it, because they just signed Jonnu Smith in Atlanta, which may have no bearing on Kyle Pitts because they're 2 fairly different players. But dude, Waller's upside, he's the only elite receiver that Daniel Jones has. And we know he's an elite receiver. And yeah, there's concerns. He hasn't played a full season other than those 2 seasons, 2019, 2020. But when he's on the field, he's productive. In 2021, he missed 6 games, but he still had 93 targets. So if he's somewhat on the field, I want a part of him. He was tight end 17 in 2021, missing those games. He's effective when he's healthy. If he can stay healthy in New York, and he's got help because they've got Daniel Bellinger, who's a legitimate tight end 2, unlike Foster Moreau, who just didn't get a ton of usage. I think they can keep him healthy, and I think even maybe splitting some time with Daniel Bellinger, it won't be much. Bellinger's going to see a massive dip. Waller could be a top 4 tight end. He's definitely a tight end 1. There's no question with this.
Okay. I think I still honestly would have him behind Evan Ingram right now as well. I think I put Evan Ingram in my top 5. Kyle Pitts probably rounding out that top 5. I think Waller's right next there to me. Matt, where does this put Daniel Jones for you? Are you moving him up your rankings at all? Sterling Shepard, for whatever it means, he is back as well on a 1-year deal. Good to see that, they brought him back, did him of service, I feel like.
I will say that Sterling Shepard is genuinely one of the saddest stories in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
he's so uber talented, man, and it's just his body has just never allowed him to string it together consistently. It doesn't move the needle much for me with Daniel Jones, to be honest, because what I like about Daniel Jones is his rushing upside and how it's always overlooked as far as his cost equivalency.
Yes.
So I want to continue to see Daniel Jones progress as a passer. Absolutely. And this certainly helps that department. But as far as overvaluing Daniel Jones now, I think the contract kind of says how they feel about him and his continued production that we saw the QB1 season we just saw under Brian Daboll. But it doesn't move the needle much for me with Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones in general, so I should probably put that in the forefront. I'm probably a little higher on him than consensus. So it doesn't really,
I think right now he's in that back end QB1 conversation with some upside. I think he stays in that conversation with the addition of Waller. Dave in the chat saying Waller doesn't move the pickle for him. So that totally understand that. Let's talk about the other side of this coin now. And it is the Las Vegas Raiders. They signed Jimmy Garapolo to a 3-year, $72.5 million deal for Jimmy G. Stays out on the West Coast. And they also roll in Jacoby Myers from New England. 3 years, $33 million for the guy who hadn't had a career touchdown up until 2022. So really cool story here. Nate, I want to go back to you. Is Jimmy G anything more than a QB2? In his only 2 seasons, he has remained healthy for the majority of the seasons, and he's been a QB2 in those seasons. Obviously rejoins Josh McDaniel's system, so he has some familiarity there with New England. He doesn't have to learn a whole new playbook. How do you feel Jimmy G with the Raiders? No Waller, though. Muted as well, Nate.
This is essentially a swap, right? It's Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo. Essentially the same quarterback. I actually like Derek Carr a little bit more than I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's a downgrade in some ways for them. He doesn't get the ball down the field as well. And it was noted that Devontae Adams' best season was his lowest ADOT season in Green Bay. So maybe that's good. But what I'm seeing this team do is what Josh McDaniels did when he was in Denver. He's making all these flashy moves, but there's no cohesiveness to what he's doing. It's like he's doing things to do things. He's bringing in these old New England guys who Bill Belichick was fine getting rid of. And why was he fine getting rid of them? I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure, I guess, but I just don't. This Vegas team's going to be another 5-6 win team, maybe 7 with Jimmy G, maybe.
Matt, are you excited at all about Jimmy G heading to Vegas? Would you be investing him in super flex leagues, 2 quarterback leagues, and or his receiving options here?
I mean, receiving options, I think you can maybe a little bit of spike to Hunter Renfrow with no Waller there. And again, not that Waller has been overly healthy, but Matt Collins is also on the market as well. So I think Renfrow could probably see maybe a little bit of positive regression there. Investing in Devontae Adams, I think, is the wrong move in general, especially when you're talking about cost. It's very, very difficult to rank him outside of the top 15 wide receivers, whether it be dynasty or redraft, because he's built the resume to earn that respect and that market insulation. But at this juncture in his career, even if the production is there, like eventually there will be decline and there will be regression. I agree with Nate in the sense that I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, and probably a little more fantasy friendly for that Raiders offense in general as well. I'm not very, I guess I'm most excited about Josh Jacobs. Like they're going to just continue to run the piss out of that football.
Yeah. And they were working on a long-term deal there for Josh Jacobs as well. So something to keep in mind. I think to me, it ups the touchdown equity that we could see out of these wide receivers because we know Derek Carr historically has a low TD rate. His career high out of all the seasons Derek Carr has played, which he's been healthy most of his career, 26 has been his max touchdowns. Jimmy Garoppolo, only 2 healthy seasons, 27 was his maximum touchdown. So I think we could see a little bit of a boost there. Why I love the Jacoby Myers. And if there's one guy on this Raiders offense I will be targeting come redraft season and in best ball season already, it's going to be Jacoby Myers, boys. And I think this is something that, like, what does Jimmy Garoppolo do well? Hit receivers in space on the run and allows them to get yards after catch. That is what Jacoby Myers is so great at doing. I am curious to see who takes over the slot role. Myers has obviously been swapped in and out of the slot in his career, and so can Renfrow play both the outside and the inside. Same with Adams. So I would almost maybe expected a shared slot role here, Matt. But overall, I like Jacoby Myers. He's the one I think in redrafts. I think he'll probably go 8th, 9th, 10th round. And that's someone I'm willing to invest in here with Jimmy G at the helm.
So it's interesting. Matt, player profilers rankings agree with you. They've got him as wide receiver 21 in Dynasty.
Yeah,
I can't say I disagree with that given the situation.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, I want to go back to what Seth said too. I'm a big Jacoby Myers fan. That guy's done touchdown regression was always going to come. It doesn't make sense for anybody to earn that many targets and not score touchdowns, right? Like that's why touchdown volatility is one of the things in analytic models. You kind of just throw it out the window. Like who cares about the percentage of, touchdowns per year when none of those stats stick? That said, Jacoby has always also been the number one target earner on his offense. He's never been the number two. There's no way he's the number one here.
Yeah, no way.
Yes, 100%. I'm excited to see what they can do in Las Vegas. I think it's clear, though, we're probably putting Myers somewhere in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 range, and Jimmy G somewhere in that mid-tier QB2. I think Matt and I a little more optimistic than Nate might be on that one. Guys, let's go to New York, though. This was a fun one today. 4-year, $44 million deal for Allen Lazard, and this is another great feel-good story. A guy who was cut from multiple teams, was hanging around the end of the Packers practice squad back in 2019, got his shot from Aaron Rodgers, and made the most of it. Diana Rossini of ESPN reported earlier today that Aaron Rodgers had a checklist, a wish list, if you would, of players that he wanted to see there. And I put it out there, and we can get into the ethics of this, but I find I have nothing wrong with that. Brady did the same thing when he went to Tampa Bay, just the timing was a little bit different. Anyways, though, I think this signals that Aaron Rodgers will be the Jets quarterback to me. 100%. I would lay the money on it. He's going to be on Pat McAfee tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So by the time you hear this, Aaron Rodgers might already be the Jets quarterback. Either way, I think Allen Lazard is going to have a similar role to what he did on the Packers. It's not going to be super sexy. He's going to do a lot of blocking, a lot of the ugly plays that don't get you fantasy points. But was a wide receiver 3 in 15 games last season. Now he reconnects with not only Rodgers, but Nathaniel Hackett, who they had a lot of gold zone success in between the 20s. Lazard was used to go up and get those balls, climb that ladder, if you would. And I think with Garrett Wilson, it's a really perfect match. Matt, how do you feel about this? And I kind of expect Corey Davis to be cut or traded for Rodgers in this deal.
So, I mean, yeah, that would have been exactly what I led with. There has to be an odd man out now. As weird as the assets that they have in that room, that is a very littered wide receiver room, and somebody's gone. And I kind of think it's Elijah.
It could be Elijah too, and I'm all right. With that.
I genuinely do, because they're in a position now where, just based on the wide receiver market of free agency, it was, the NFL is a business, man. It was very smart of them to not make an in-season move with Elijah Moore, knowing who the free agents are in this class. In this particular, it's Jacoby Myers and Allen Lazard. Elijah Moore has more market value now on the free agent market in this window than he did when he was disgruntled in week 6, right? So I think Elijah's the odd man out here. And not that Corey Davis is going to be anything imposing on that offense, but Garrett Wilson is enough. Like Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Corey Davis is enough. And I think that puts obviously in a very similar situation to what Aaron Rodgers had during his 2 MVP seasons, where Garrett Wilson is now the Devontae Adams of the Nathaniel Hackett offense. So I feel really like Devontae's market value is not going to change very much, because he's already properly valued as a high-end dynasty wide receiver 1, right around that wide receiver 8, 9, 10 range, depending on where your drafts are. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's all just posturing. It's not really collusion either. Like, you're allowed to say like, hey, get your agents to call this team because I'm going to sign here. So.
Yeah, it's going to be electric. I'm super looking forward to it. And the question I have for you, Nate, is where do you put Garrett Wilson after this? Does it affect him at all, or is he still a high-end wide receiver 2, right around where he's going in a lot of these best balls we're seeing early on?
So if Aaron Rodgers ends up in New York, he's a wide receiver 1, plain and simple. I don't care who else they bring in. I don't care if Allen Lazard's there. I don't care if they hang on to Elijah Moore or Corey Davis. Doesn't matter to me. Garrett Wilson will be a wide receiver 1 in 2023 with Aaron Rodgers. He might be a wide receiver 1 without Aaron Rodgers. If they bungle this and it falls apart and they have to bring in someone else, Garrett Wilson's super talented. And look at how good he was with terrible quarterback play to mediocre quarterback play last year.
And I think why I don't budge as well on Garrett Wilson, and I don't have him as a wide receiver 1, and I've always been the Garrett Wilson guy. He was my wide receiver 1 coming out of the class last year in 2022. But I have him in that upper echelon wide receiver 2 range. And if Rodgers comes here, which I think he does, I think he's going to fall in love with Wilson, how he fell in love with Watson down the stretch there. And there was a point where Watson was a dynamic wide receiver one for your fantasy team. Garrett Wilson's a more of a reception hog and will have a higher base than Watson will. But I think at the end of the day, this is going to be dynamite. And like, I just love this Jets team, guys. And like if it was them like doing a freestyle rap, they were on the stream together doing a freestyle rap over the weekend. The rookies there, the former rookies from the Jets, and then you see Sauce and Garrett and Brees all out there burning the cheese head together. Like, that's good content, man. And like, I'm just happy for these guys because like they really seem like close friends that like want to go out and put on a show. And like, I'm getting my bets like locked and loaded here soon because I mean these odds are going to jump as well. So if you want to throw out, you know, a Packer or a Jets playoff picture or at least you know, something on the Jets for 2023, now's maybe the time as well.
Just take their overs and wins. I'm sure they probably hit it anyway.
Yeah, that was the ticket for
Like,
me last
straight
year.
up.
Yeah. 100%. Congratulations to Alan Lazard, though, getting paid. Happy for him. Let's move to Carolina here. They trade up for the number 1 pick. They give out the number 9 pick, the number 61 pick, a 2024 first, 2025 second, and DJ mother effing Moore on the move, fellas. And how can we mind the hype here? Because we know what happens with DJ Moore every single year. He's drafted somewhere as a back end 1, early 2, wide receiver 2, but he's never finished better than wide receiver 16. That came all the way back in 2019. Matt, how do we mind the hype here with Moore? Because I think it's going to get out of control pretty quickly. And what's your overall thoughts on this?
Chicago is going to have to increase their passing volume to a ridiculous amount for you to really be excited about DJ Moore as anything more than he's already been throughout his career. I don't know if people are really aware because of how much they love DJ Moore. He's never had a wide receiver 1 season. Ever. Not once.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if we should. Yes. Also in that, he might kind of have potentially the most talented quarterback. I don't know that Justin Fields has necessarily met his ceiling as a passer. That's for sure. But probably the most talented quarterback he's played with since Cam Newton. Absolutely. And even then, obviously Cam, not the greatest of passers. So it's probably similar. It's probably his maximum ceiling is probably his best season, which was not a wide receiver 1 season. It was wide receiver 14.
Yeah, I think I'm right in that area with you. And it was good to see a little bit of positive touchdown regression come DJ Moore's way here in 2022. And it was with Baker Mayfield, it was with Sam Darnold, little PJ Walker
and it
mixed
led
in there.
to less points per game.
Yeah, because he didn't see the volume. So with that said, Nate, it seems like Matt and I are both out on DJ Moore. Any love for him? And I know you're going to be one of those people who's crowning Fields already a top 5 QB for next year after this move as well, probably.
I mean, that's not with his rushing upside and a tiny bit of passing increase. Yes, but that doesn't make DJ. Sorry, I'm stealing it, Nate. Justin Fields is going to ball.
DJ Moore. So is DJ Moore. Like, here's the thing that we know the talent's there, but look at who he's had since Cam Newton in 2019. Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold again. Don't forget how much he balled out in those first 4 games with Sam Darnold in Carolina. Like, he looked like a wide receiver 1, and then it all fell apart when Christian McCaffrey got hurt. He's going to a team that's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more complete than what Carolina has because Ryan Pace is making those moves. They picked up a ton of draft capital. They're going to improve their offensive line. They've already improved their defense. And now you've got Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. DJ Moore could see 150 targets this season. If he's seen
150 targets every year, though, and he's terrible.
No, that is not true. That is not true.
Not terrible, but
he's seen 118 targets twice. He saw 82 targets, then 163 and 135. The 135 season, he was wide receiver 16.
Yeah, that's fine.
But he was dealing with an inaccurate quarterback, and we know that Justin Fields is not as inaccurate as Cam Newton.
Here's the I could argue. However, I will. Here's my question, Nate, and this is a thought exercise. If I'm saying right now, redraft 2 wide receivers, what round are you willing to take DJ Moore in, and overall, what wide receiver would you like rank him at?
So for right now, I'll put him at a back end wide receiver 2.
Well, you were just hyping
I know,
him up.
I know, because I have a feeling that
We're winning.
he's going to hit a ceiling, but I'm going to need to see it for the first 2 games. As far as ranking him out, I'm going to rank him as a back end wide receiver 2, but I think he has that wide receiver 1 upside in this Chicago offense. We haven't seen it. I'm going to need to see it, but I'll take him in the 5th round.
You're not going to get him in the 5th round. I guarantee after this,
You don't think he'll last in the 5th round?
No, I think he's a 4th. I mean, he's been a 4th, borderline 4th. Would you take him in the early 4th?
I'll take him in the I take him in the early 4th.
I will be out on DJ Moore once again. I've been off of DJ Moore for almost his entire career, not because I don't like the player, but because we remember that 1st round pick. We remember that 1st round draft capital that the Carolina Panthers spent on him, and I feel like we can't let that go. I think he could be really good, and I think they need to use him as a shorter A-dot receiver if they want to have that maximum success with him here.
100%.
Matt, where do you rank Justin Fields now at the other end of this discussion? Obviously, I don't think he's in this top tier of quarterbacks. I think that belongs to Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Burrow. However, where do you have him in this next group among Herbert, T-Law, Lamar, Danny Dimes, Geno? Where do you have him in that mix?
So I'm cutting it off at the top 3. It's Hurts, Mahomes, and Allen.
Burrow's not in it for you.
No. And then it's Burrow and Herbert. Burrow, Herbert, and T-Law too, if he really continues. Because last year was really his first year for me. So if that was his rookie season and we see that, watch out. But those 3 guys are in that tier for me of like, you are going to produce enough passing production to be a QB1 locked and loaded, but you don't have the rushing production to be Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and then Mahomes is just an alien with his passing production.
Cheat code, yeah.
This is one of the craziest stats. We just kind of old to look back at Mahomes. He broke Drew Brees' all-time yards record. So the most yards in a single season, rushing combined, even though Drew Brees' rushing yards at the time was very minimal and Patrick Mahomes had over 300. He broke it without a 1,000-yard receiver. Not one.
Yeah.
No wide receiver on his team. Like,
very impressive.
That's some of the craziest stuff ever. Mahomes is an alien. That said, I would have Justin Fields in that Herbert, Lawrence, Joe Herbert.
Okay,
Burrow.
so he's a top 6 quarterback for you, is what you're saying, pretty much.
Probably 6. I'll concede to that. I would probably have him right ahead or behind Lamar Jackson, depending on how I'm feeling on a certain day. But yeah.
Okay. And so if you have him there, you're pretty much like willing to take him probably somewhere between that 6th and 7th, 8th round range. I think that's a price higher. You would go like
probably
4 or 5 single quarterback.
I mean, as soon as Jalen Hurts and those 3 guys are off the board, as soon as one of those other 3 quarterbacks that I tiered him with are gone, I would take Justin Fields. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, as soon as I see somebody reach for Burrow or reach for Herbert or reach for Lawrence, I would take Justin Fields.
Okay. Nate, obviously you're there as well.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Dude, 2023's Jalen Hurts, folks.
I
missed out on that one. I'm not missing out on this one.
I think we're still might be a little bit early there on Justin Fields. We will see. That's the decision you guys as fantasy managers are going to have to make, though. Are you in on Justin Fields at that price? Are you out? Same with DJ Moore. Right now, I'm being a little trepidatious as I have been with both of these players throughout their career. So it is a little bit of a brand thing here. Nate and Matt, they really like him, though. So something to consider as we move forward here. Let's talk about the Dolphins, guys. They made themselves contenders. Jalen Ramsey, big trade over the weekend. Rams are hitting that rebuild button, and started with Ramsey heading down there to Miami. They also signed Mike White, 2-year, $16 million. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson also return on $2 million deals apiece for them. Does this change anything for you guys? Because I think the only thing this changes to me is that I'm more comfortable with Tyreek Hill now at his current price tag, which is going to be a back end first, if not a little bit sooner in redrafts. But he's coming off career high in targets, receptions, and yards. And that was with a lot of backup quarterback play as well. Nate, he just smoked some people in a track race. Are you comfortable with Tyreek Hill now that we do have a sound backup in Miami like Mike White that we can trust?
Oh, 100%. Because now we know no matter who's in at quarterback, they're going to feed Tyreek Hill. So back to wide receiver 1.
The overall wide receiver 1?
Wide receiver 1 tier, probably top 4. I'll call it now. He's going to be wide receiver 3.
Okay. I have him probably in my top 2 or 3 as well, probably behind J-Jet and Jamar. I don't think I can draft Tyreek maybe above those guys. But other than that, Matt, how do you feel about Tyreek Hill and the rest of this Dolphins gang after really restocking here? They're going for it, my friend.
I love it for Mostert and Wilson too as serviceable running backs and flex plays. I mean, just it's Shanahan's offense. I mean, actually, Shanahan's offense is Mike McDaniel's offense. So that it's just running back plenty for fantasy. So always stash those guys at their cheap costs. I really enjoy them. I honestly think, especially for super flex leagues, dynasty leagues, go out and get as much Mike White as possible. And it's really honestly like a dark side of things, but Mike White is 1-2 a concussion away from being the Dolphins starter for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, they just signed that 5th-year extension as well, so they did commit a little bit more to him with Tua there. So yeah, I agree with that analysis there. I'm excited to see what they can do overall. I'm really kind of bummed about this next one here. The next headline here, we got Eagles. They signed Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott is re-signed as well. This means Miles Sanders, our Penn State fellow, he is gone. It's going to hurt his value, I think, unless he lands somewhere really good for him, which I don't know what that landing spot is right now. To me, there's been a lot of chatter. Is it Bijan? Is it Gibbs? Is it one of these other rookie RBs? We've covered here at IBT, Matt. How do you feel about Rashad Penny? Does this close the door on one of those rookie running backs? Because to me, it does not. I think it's still wide open, and this is anyone's backfield, including Mr. Kenneth Gainwell as well.
I think the Penny signing actually makes it more likely that they attack one of those running backs.
Okay.
I genuinely do think it's depth more than anything. Not that Rashad Penny is not a startable running back on
He's
any
a stud
team
when he's healthy. He's a stud,
absolutely, undeniable. Leads the NFL historically in yards per carry.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, absolutely a stud. There's no denying that. Had the collegiate production and draft capital as well. Like Rashad Penny's the real deal. But I've said this many times. This signing doesn't change my opinion at all. They have a free first. And whether they decide to use their own at 31 or the one that they got from the Saints for no reason at 10. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that trade. I love Chris Olave, but being a Saints fan, I think it was absolutely insane that we moved out the pick that year and the next year to get a wide receiver. That said, they have a free first. I definitely think they're using one of those on either Bijan or Gibbs, and I don't think it's crazy that they just say, to hell with the market. Let's take Bijan at 10. Let's let nobody else get everybody's favorite running back prospect.
They did. We have to keep in mind, though, they have lost a lot of people on this defensive side as well. TJ Edwards, Hargrave went over to the 49ers, so they might think maybe they have to, but they've had guys like Jordan Davis in the wings over there as well to make up for these losses on the defensive side. So we've seen a lot of Gonzalez mock there. We've seen a lot of these Joey Porter Jr., some of these younger corners possibly going at pick number 10 to them. But if it's not, man, it could be Bijan. We'll see what happens there. Nate, you've been the Rashad Penny stan on this show for a couple years now. Are you excited about Penny, or are you with Matt and I here that we think this leaves the door open for a rookie to come in?
It leaves the door open for a rookie to come in. I love Rashad Penny's talent. Like you said, when he's on the field, the dude is an absolute baller. But he's not on the field enough, and that's a problem. He has durability issues. Great signing for Philly, but I think that they're going to go after a Bijan or a Jahmyr Gibbs. Bijan, if they want to take a running back at 10, they want to go like Christian Gonzalez at 10, then they're going to take Jahmyr Gibbs at the back end of the first round. Either way, I don't think they can really go wrong with this, but they have to add another running back because we know Kenny Gainwell's not that guy. He's a nice piece in that offense, but he's not that guy. And you can't hang your hat on Rashad Penny being healthy for an entire season because he just simply hasn't done it.
So same thing that we're talking about with Mike White here, just in case they don't go after one of these rookie RBs. And this is such a deep RB class. They could walk away with like a Tajay Spears in the 5th round or a Chase Brown in the 5th round. Like there are so many good running backs in this class. So they could spend some later capital as well. However, I don't mind floating something out there for Kenneth Gainwell right now. I'm not going to spend up a lot, but if I can get rid of an aging veteran or a 4th round rookie pick or further, I wouldn't do it for a 3rd, But like, if you can get him on the cheap in your dynasty leagues, I would be intrigued to see what Kenneth Gainwell's value is right now, just to see. Like, I don't think he's a feature back, but if it does come down to Gainwell and Rashad Penny on the roster, Gainwell is the one you want to roster long term, I feel like.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Other running back news here, guys, and I will say, like, Nate, I know you have kids. Matt and I don't have kids yet, or Kyle. But like, let's not let our kids be running backs. Like, I'm just going to train mine to be a punter because I think that's the best gig in the league. Be a punter, have some fun, toss a little bag and play a little ping pong in the locker room, collect a couple M's and call it a day. But the running back market has not moved very much at all. Receiver market, kind of same deal, but I think it's just the talent of receiver this year. But David Montgomery, he goes to the Lions, and this is kind of a shocking move. Jamal Williams is beloved in Detroit, just like he was out in Green Bay as well. This is crazy to me that they might not bring Jamal, especially from everything from the hard knocks early in the season, the hyping them up on the first day of camp, to his granddad passing away right before the last game, going out there and doing that for him. It was a storybook season for Jamal Williams. Is the door totally shut on that, Nate? Could Jamal Williams, do we have to say Dave Montgomery and Swift? It's their backfield now?
Oh, 100%. They're not going to re-sign Jamal Williams now. If they're going to re-sign Jamal Williams, they wouldn't have signed David Montgomery.
It's just
plain and
crazy.
simple.
Matt,
true.
then how do you break this down? Because Swift, obviously, we know the talent. We know 100% know the talent. He was one of my favorite running backs in that 2020 class coming out, just because of how dynamic of a ball catcher he can be. But last year, it was the same as the year before. It was so, and even more frustrating with his usage, where you couldn't start Swift, and if you were, for about 6 to 8 weeks, he was killing you. So do you think it's a similar situation here with Montgomery, who might not be uber talented, but he's a solid running back who can churn out yards? And that's what the Lions seem like they want to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think he affects DeAndre Swift's value a little more than Jamal did, and we saw how detrimental that was to Swift's touchdown production, especially with inside of the 5-yard line. There were so many possessions where if Detroit got inside of the 8, inside of the 10, DeAndre Swift just didn't come on the field, and it would be 3 straight Jamal Williams handoffs straight in a row. So yeah. I do think that David Montgomery is more talented than Jamal Williams. That said, I think DeAndre Swift is more talented than David Montgomery. I think the better back is already in Detroit. I don't know if Detroit agrees with me. So much of dynasty and redraft and all fantasy analysis, especially from an analytic perspective, is all the numbers can be there and everything can point to positive production. But if there's humans behind those decisions, if a coach doesn't have the confidence in a player, or the player doesn't have the confidence in himself, he's never going to meet that ceiling. And this certainly, no matter what way you cut it, this is not a positive move for DeAndre Swift.
Well, and the thing is, and to your point, Matt, if Dan Campbell doesn't trust DeAndre Swift in the red zone, he's not going to use him. And how many times did we see DeAndre Swift get stuffed inside the 5? Bounced back. He doesn't have that power to be able to break through and score those tough goal line touchdowns, which is why they had Jamal Williams last season and why they got David Montgomery this season. Because David Montgomery, again, he's a power runner. He's going to snipe so many touchdowns from DeAndre Swift. I mean, you could bank that.
Okay, guys.
I mean, Jamal literally broke Barry Sanders' touchdown record.
Yeah.
We got Dave in the chat saying that is an important reminder, the human element of coaching, 100%. Here's the question, gun to your head right now. Who are we taking in redrafts here? Is it David Montgomery or is it DeAndre Swift?
Neither.
Yeah, it's probably
what?
neither.
They're probably both somewhere in that 6th to 8th round range right now, I would say.
Yeah, maybe even a little later. No, that sounds about right if I'm playing my best ball mind. But you remember in 2021, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. They had essentially back-to-back ADPs. Conner vastly outperformed simply because of the insane touchdown production. I mean, you could say DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams as well, but I'm just saying it happens more frequently than people like to remember. I think it's going to be a very similar situation.
Okay.
So Matt Ward says, say it again.
What?
I just want to hear it out of your mouth. The running back comparison.
James Conner and Chase Edmonds.
I like
Chase,
that.
you're comparing Chase Edmonds to DeAndre Swift, correct?
Well, no,
Well,
but
I
he's
mean,
comparing
no,
situation.
I'm comparing the situation
I
and the
really
ADPs.
wanted to hear it. I really
Nope,
wanted to hear
not
it.
happening.
No.
I knew what you were
trick you
trying to
into
set
it.
me up
No.
for. That's why I was like, had to pause, hesitate,
No, I'm
not
collect
doing
my
it.
words.
No more
but
Chase
the
Edmonds
ADP
hype
is going
here.
to be very similar. And certainly it's going to be a very similar situation where I almost think in that scenario where they have almost near back-to-back ADPs or same round ADPs, that Chase Edmonds was the one that was favored over James Conner, and people
And
might still like
Connor
the
was the
DeAndre
guy.
Swift.
Yep.
And exactly.
I like it. I love that analysis there. I think I'm back on Monty over Swift right now after that brief down there from Matt. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the rumor mill over here with bear in mind or bullshit.
This just in. Breaking news. Man, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
All right, welcome back to Bear in Mind or Bullshit, where we tell you whether these rumors, and we're going to talk about some minor moves, whether we should be bearing these in mind or whether they're bullshit. Let's start here at the top. It's no bigger name than Austin Eckler, who's been a fantasy darling, not only for his job on the field, but for his work inside the industry as well. He loves fantasy football as much as almost any player. However, doesn't love the Chargers right now. They have given him permission to speak to other teams to seek that trade. Nate, this was a shocker. It looks like the amount of touchdowns that Austin Eckler scored is not good enough for the Chargers. How do you feel?
I feel like they should trade him back home to the Denver Broncos. We know that won't happen, obviously. But look, this is BS because there isn't a team that is going to give what the Chargers want for Austin Eckler. He's 27 years old, which that's 14 years younger than me. Congratulations. I'm in no shape to be an NFL running back, and we know what that cliff is for running backs in the NFL.
It's that number. Yeah.
He's about to hit it. And not only is that the cliff for running backs, he's a very athletic running back who gets hit a lot and uses his body. It has been known to get hurt on occasion. Who's going to take a chance on that? And what they're expecting to get back for a guy like Austin Eckler, who was the RB1 last season, I don't think it happens. I don't think they can find a trade partner. Austin Eckler's a Charger next season.
Matt, are you also on the bullshit bandwagon here?
I think so. I mean, it's CMC market value. And if they're not getting that back, they're not doing that trade. Because he's put up CMC level production and had similar kind of injuries. So, and I think, being a little bit older as well and kind of used a little bit more, because although CMC dealt with injuries, that also kind of kept his tires fresh because they weren't major injuries. He was just kept off the field on a tanking team. That said, I don't see him moving. I also don't think it's a great idea to keep disgruntled players, in a bad situation. But I think it's going to be near impossible for teams to meet the market value. And especially when you talk about what it's going to cost them to bring in a very similar level player that they could then have I shouldn't say similar level. That's discrediting Austin Eckler's incredible talents. But would you rather spend up on Austin Eckler and have that cap hit and, that shortened tenure, or spend a third and get a
player who
running back for 5 years?
Yeah, it's a big decision they have to make, but at the end of the day, I think the Chargers, if they are serious about contending for a Super Bowl, Austin Eckler needs to be on their 2023 roster. Dude is not only a gamer with the ball in his hands in the ground, but he can catch everything that comes his way. He was the one bright spot in the second half of that Jaguars debacle in the playoffs. So I think absolutely they need to give him some sort of extension. We'll see where this goes, but you guys are saying don't hit the panic button quite yet on Austin Eckler, which I appreciate that because we've heard it a lot, whether it's been Zeke, whether it's been Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, all these running backs, Alvin Kamara, have apparently been on the market, but no one wants to give up anything for them. when especially we have a running back class that is probably 15, 20 backs deep that could be serviceable.
Easy.
I mean, hell,
Legitimately.
Isaiah Pacheco was a dog in the playoffs for the Chiefs, possibly won them that Super Bowl, and he came from the 7th round. So I think that's what teams are keeping in mind here. I don't think they're going to overpay for Austin Eckler. However, the Saints, they're paying down for Mr. Michael Thomas. He restructures his contract to stay in New Orleans for at least one more year, folks. One more year, Michael Thomas, and he averaged 17 PPR points last season in just 3 games. However, he's played just 10 out of his last 50 possible games, 20%. Matt, can we reinvest our hope in Michael Thomas here? He's got Derek Carr. He was sending up the prayer emojis. Are you setting up the prayer emojis for your draft stock in Mr. Thomas here?
I mean, yeah, I am. I'm a Saints fan, so I want the best, and I'm hoping for the best. And again, I've had the hardest time evaluating Michael Thomas, both in redraft and in dynasty values. Now, dynasty's become a little easier. Obviously, that dip is very real, but for those injury seasons and his slight returns and things of that nature, like Michael Thomas has never been anything but a wide receiver 1 when he's on the field. That's the moment he stepped on the field as a rookie to even the times he could show up for just one game during those injury-ridden seasons, or even last year for those 3 as I think it was wide receiver 4 in points per game overall. Like, Michael Thomas is just a baller. I'm on record saying that I never thought he would play another snap for the Saints again. Like, clearly he trusts in that franchise and wants to be there. This also might tell us a little bit of something about how the market feels about Michael Thomas. If he couldn't get more elsewhere, now taking a pay cut to maybe the only team that's actually interested, which is the one that has him in-house. So, there might be a bit of reading between the lines there. I love MT. I love his game. He's going to produce if he's healthy. I don't know how long his body can hold up.
So, Nate, are you taking Michael Thomas in your redrafts this year? Because I think I just have to stay away from it. Like, if he falls to a ridiculous point, like I think last year in my Scott Fishbowl draft, maybe he went like 11th, 12th round, and I literally took Christian Watson over him, and I felt like such an idiot for the first 3 weeks of the season, and then at the end, I was like, feeling pretty good about that decision. How do you feel about it? Will you invest in MT at all?
No.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. The talent's undeniable. Like you said, Matt, the first 4 seasons of his career, he was a wide receiver 1. The last season, he was fully healthy. He was the overall wide receiver 1 in PPR.
Historic
season. He had like 135, 145 catches. It's ridiculous. But that said, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And as a player gets older and these injuries stack up, like I'll tell you from personal experience, man, as stuff starts to stack up, it's harder to get over it. And I could tell you that from my late 20s and early 30s when I was still playing competitive baseball. It got harder and harder after every game for me to recover from being squatted down in a catcher's position. I wasn't getting hit by full-grown men who are in weight rooms. I love the talent, but my concern is that his body isn't healthy. He keeps 3 seasons in a row. He played 7 games, didn't play in 2021 and played 3 last season. I believe the heart's there and he wants to be on the field. But if you look at what this team is and what Michael Thomas has been the last 3-4 seasons, I'm hands off, and I could be completely wrong. He could put together a wide receiver 1 season.
He could.
If he's healthy. But I'm going to tell you right now, the odds of that happening are really slim. And it was 149 receptions in 2019, by the way, that's crazy.
Ridiculous.
But also remember, that was with Drew Brees.
Matt, I want to ask you this. Give me a number. Wide receiver, what would you be comfortable taking Michael Thomas in redrafts? 35, 25.
I legitimately didn't even think about it, and for whatever reason, the number that keeps coming up in my head is 50.
He's not going to last to 50, though. I don't think he would last
like that for whatever reason. And I'm a Saints fan. I'm an MT guy. For whatever reason, that just is continuously, and especially with the way that like fantasy has reflected kind of the NFL getting more pass happy in the way that wide receivers fall, or I guess go up the draft boards, go earlier in drafts. That's probably still like pretty reasonable. I think.
I just think he's probably going to be in that like wide receiver 36 to 38 range again. And I probably will not.
So like Jacoby Myers or Michael Thomas?
Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. So I think Jacoby's probably going to go around wide receiver 32.
I'm willing to make that investment in Jacoby Myers. I'm not willing to.
So that's my point. So am I, and that's where that gets kind of wishy-washy with MT. If you're putting him right in that, you gotta give me. Basically, is the way that I would kind of view that is if he doesn't play an entire season. Yeah, for whatever reason, wide receiver 50 was just the number that came up, Brad. But if you're talking wide receiver 36 and he puts up 5 games of wide receiver 1, that's awesome. But I don't think that's worth the investment unless those 5 games literally outlast the entire season of wide receiver 36's overall finish.
Okay, last question here, and weigh in the chat too. I want to hear your guys' response here. Michael Thomas or Alan Lazard this year? Heading to the Jets for Lazard. We chatted about him earlier. It would be Lazard all day, and it wouldn't be close to me. I think wide receiver, he's probably going to be somewhere in that wide receiver 30 to 36 range. How do you rank him and Myers and Thomas here, Nate?
So interesting. As I love to do during these shows, I love to pull up rankings to see where these players are ranked in Dynasty. On Player Profiler, currently, Michael Thomas is wide receiver 122.
Okay,
he's behind 123's Velus Jones. He's behind Tim Patrick, Diami Brown, Rashid Shaheed, Greg Dortch, Tutu Atwell, Mac Hollins, Richie James. Yes. I could go on.
I would trade all of those guys straight up for MT in a heartbeat.
Oh, sure, of course. But that just tells you where analysts are on Michael Thomas.
Yeah,
so who are the options against Seth? I got really excited about this 122. So you're saying Michael Thomas?
Me too. And I'm redraft, not Dynasty. Lazard, Myers, and MT. Go.
Lazard, Myers, MT.
Yeah, that's
where I'm at.
I think that's my ranking as well here. Matt, are you on that train as well?
Myers ahead of Lazard, I think, but yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Next one here. We got Falcons. They bolster the defense. They went hard in the trenches on day 1 and day 2 of legal tampering, and they signed Taylor Heineke to a 2-year, $14 million deal for the man who was living on a couch not that long ago. So just another really cool story. I'm happy for Taylor Heineke getting a little bit of a bag here. And to me, I think this at least could give Kyle Pitts, Drake London a safe floor if it is either Desmond Ridder or Heineke here. I prefer Heineke during that 10-game stretch of him as the starter. Terry McLaurin was the wide receiver 11, a wide receiver 1 overall in that stretch. The best we've probably ever seen Lauren consistently throughout his career. But Ridder did show some flashes at the end of the season with Drake London kind of the only man left. Matt, who do you prefer at quarterback here for the Falcons? And can we get excited about this team a little bit? Because they weren't a bad team last year. It's just their damn run philosophy was absolutely insane.
Yeah, the only team that attempted fewer pass attempts were the Chicago Bears, and it was like 0.4 pass attempts fewer. Under 25 pass attempts per game is not modern football.
Malarkey. It's malarkey in this day and age.
Yeah, it's not modern football. It's not winning football. Establish the run all you want, but that is just not how you win games in the NFL, period, point blank. Anywhere increasing to upwards of 30 pass attempts even, which would still be in the bottom 10 of the league, is
phenomenal.
Drake London into an absolute superstar. He has the 3rd highest rookie target share of all time.
Really?
Ever. Yeah.
But is that number skewed because it's such small
volume? So that's when you have to bring up one of my favorite sayings: denominators matter. You know, the common saying on Dynasty Twitter: denominators matter. And exactly, it is such a small sample size, not just because you're talking about one season of play, but they literally attempted like 300 passes less than any other team, right? So it is a skewed sample size slightly, but they also are in a position where it's Kyle Pitts, it's Drake London. I would like to see them add a few offensive weapons through this deeper draft class as well.
Brings Zacchaeus back, baby. I'm ready. Yeah, I like Zacchaeus, honestly.
See, exactly. But
I like
Zacchaeus. Yeah, I would like to
Zacchaeus.
see them add some more rookie talent, but it's going to be Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and they're going to earn an insane amount of targets. Now, is the volume going to be there to where those targets actually turn into production? And is that volume going to be valuable enough to where those targets actually turn into production? I think Taylor Heineke is the better passer. I don't think that's really an argument against Desmond Ridder. He has a gigantic mountain to climb when it comes as far as being able to cut through NFL defenses with his arm. Can certainly do it with his legs, but that doesn't excite me as far as Drake London and Kyle Pitts' opportunity shares are concerned. So if it's not Desmond Ridder and it's not Desmond Ridder quick, I think that's what this contract says, is that they will put Taylor Heineke in, and whether that leads to them tanking or winning games, I don't think they could care less, because 2024 is the year that the Falcons are certainly going to attack a quarterback. If they don't do it in this draft, I kind of don't think that they're going to for some reason, but I think 2024 is like the Falcons are going for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I mean, worst case scenario here is that they finish right around that 8-8 range again. And they are out of
NFC South.
Right. Yeah. But it also takes you out of the Drake May and the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. And I think that is where they are in right now. Like, honestly, there aren't going to be a lot of other quarterbacks. Maybe the Jets, if Rodgers retires next year and Rodgers does go there, that are going to be quarterback hungry, because a lot of them are going to be getting their quarterbacks here in a pretty solid 2022 draft classes, or 2023 draft class as well. So yeah, I think the Falcons are on top of my list. I think Caleb Williams or Drake May could be a Falcon. We will see though. Nate, any interest in Kyle Pitts or Drake London this year? They're guys I stayed away from in 2022, and I was very happy with it. I know you had a little more exposure to Kyle Pitts, and I think you wanted to.
Thanks for reminding me.
Sorry, just got a spade's a spade, bro.
So much. And they were expensive shares.
Yeah,
yes, they were very expensive shares. Two straight years in Scott Fishbowl, I took him, and I don't know. I want to believe in Kyle Pitts because I love the talent, the skills there. But again, like we talked about earlier, Arthur Smith doesn't love to use Kyle Pitts, apparently. I mean, we've had 2 seasons of Pitts doing basically nothing, where we're drafting him as tight end 3, tight end 4, and then he's tight end 12, 15, 20, whatever he's finished as. However, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm probably drafting both of them again this year at their ADP, because there's that. Drake London, I believe, is going to have a big season. Whether it's Ritter or it's Heineke at quarterback doesn't really matter to me, because he's talented. But with Pitts, I'm worried about scheme still with Arthur Smith, and the scheme doesn't seem to fit. And what have we seen that leads us to believe that's going to change? They brought in Jonnu Smith. They brought in another tight end, and he wasn't a cheap tight end.
I'm not.
He got paid. I'm not as worried about Jonnu, but I think what it tells me is that they want to continue to run the ball with Tyler Algier. I don't think that they're really going to go after anything other running back wise.
Oh, I think they're gonna. I think they're.
I think Algier's dead. Yeah.
All right.
I think to me,
I do as well.
Yeah. If they want to run this smash style of ball, it's just like, I mean, it's just like the Baltimore Ravens. Like, jobs were lost last season because they were trying to run the ball 50 times a game with the likes of Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake. And I think the same thing could happen to Arthur Smith if he doesn't have an elite running back trying to do that shit. Like,
if you want to run that offense, you need a committee.
That's a fair point.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And like, that's exactly what the Falcons could do. I'm a little more hotter on Kyle Pitts and Drake London if they don't add another one of these stars, or at least like top 10 wide receiver prospects, I think, in the draft. Like, I know from a fan watching the game, I would really like to see the Falcons with more weapons, like you said, Matt, but at the same time, for fantasy, I do want that target share for Drake London. Like you said, I mean, third. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there, but 2 names to keep an eye on now that I think are at least have some hope with Drake London and Kyle Pitts there. Let's go to the Texans here quickly. They signed Robert Woods, Noah Brown, and Case Keenum to me. We know Case Keenum, he's going to be the guy to mentor the youth here. We're happy to see that. Robert Woods, wide receiver 59 last season in a wide receiver 1 role where he saw over 93 targets, Matt. You're shaking your head. You're batting your hand. I think this actually could be like a decent landing spot for Robert Woods. I didn't want anything to do with him last season. However, there's always positive regression for these wide receivers 2 years removed from an ACL injury. So that goes in his favor, and he could be that reliable option for this rookie quarterback coming in, whoever it is, whether that's Stroud or Bryce Young, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly see that point. I'm just not overly interested in. And yes, Brandon Cooks has been serviceable for sure, especially when you consider cost. But I'm not overly interested in Texans wide receivers right now. D'Amico Ryan's offense, I would like to see it function and play out. Robert Woods, again, yes, 2 years removed from that ACL. I'm glad you brought that up. But how often are they 33 years old?
Robert Woods is getting up there. Yeah.
So, right. I mean, it's something to consider as well. Now, I like Bobby Trees. I like him a lot. I love his game, and I think he's going to be serviceable on that Texans team. I think this is bye-bye Brandon Cooks. Noah Brown had some good games as well in a kind of shorter target role for the Cowboys. Nothing really moves the needle here for me. What would move the needle for these receivers for me if I see the Texans draft a solid quarterback in this draft, a CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, maybe it's Anthony Richardson, whoever it may be. That's going to excite me a little bit more as it stands right now. And you assume that they're going to go in that direction. As it stands right now, though, knowing a rookie quarterback is probably who's coming in. And if they completely whiff on that, potentially a veteran replacement a la Baker Mayfield or something. It's just year one, Robert Woods in Texans offense doesn't do it for me, man.
Okay, fair enough there. Nate, I want to ask you, does Samaje Perine in the Denver Broncos, your Denver Broncos, do it for you? He signs a 2-year, $7.5 million deal with possible $1 million in incentives. Chase Edmonds, of course, cut just a couple of weeks ago. But Sean, we know Sean, man. We know Sean Payton. He loves Latavius Murray. Latavius out there on the streets right now. I think he's a Denver Bronco. I think they bring him back. However, as of now, it stands as Perine, and then eventually when we get Javonte Williams back, do you like Perine? Because he was a RB3 last season, and he's probably going to go as a value once again here.
I love this for Denver. We've heard that Javonte Williams' knee injury might be a little bit worse than we initially thought, and there's a chance he misses the entire 2023 season, which I think is what this signing is saying. Like, we're going to prepare ourselves for Javonte to be out. This way, we've got Samaje, we've got Latavius Murray, we've got Marlon Mack. Is that the greatest cast of running backs for what is supposed to be a really dynamic offense with Sean Payton out the helm? It's not great, but
serviceable.
It's serviceable, and you've got to remember that Perine's been behind somebody else his entire career. He's never been that lead back, and it's probably not going to change much in Denver. We're probably looking at a committee until Javonte's back. But you should note he averaged 4.78, 4.47, and 4.15 yards per carry the last 3 seasons behind Joe Mixon. That means something to me, that he can have that 4+ yards per carry average when he's getting spot work. But then we've seen him used heavily at times, and he's effective. Plus, he's a guy he's effective and he can score. And I think people forget that the year that him and Mixon were together at, I believe it was Oklahoma, Perine actually had a better season than Mixon. So, and that's nothing against Joe Mixon. Obviously, college ball is completely different. We're talking about Oklahoma, not Cincinnati. But I think it's something to bear in mind that, like, he had 51 targets last season. And this is an offense that did not have a pass-catching back once Javonte went down last season. Could Samaje Perine be in for 100 targets in Denver? I don't think that's crazy.
Whoa, that is great. That's like the same bullshit you were on with J.D. McKissick last year. Let's take a fucking seat.
McKissick had 110 targets in 2020, Seth. Don't forget that.
2020,
sure. So you can see – here's the thing with Perine is that he's never had more than 100 carries in a season outside his rookie season in Washington. So relatively fresh legs for a 27-year-old running back that you're not breaking the bank for. And that's the thing, is you're not breaking the bank for this guy. He has fresh legs. He doesn't have much of an injury history.
I'm writing the headline now. Nate's 2023 all-in selection, Samaje Perine.
That is not it.
I like Perine, and I think if he's going to go as an RB5 like he is on Underdog right now, I will continue to draft him at that price tag.
Sure.
However, I'm going to expect his ceiling is not his ceiling is in that wide or RB3 range once again, and that's if Javonte doesn't come back. But if Murray comes back, I really don't want much to do with him, I don't think. Matt, any final thoughts here on Perine and Nate? This is a despicable human being throwing out 100 targets for fucking Perine. God.
I think it's a huge indictment to Javonte Williams' health. And although it's a low-level signing, probably viewed on the market, I think people are getting overexcited about Javonte's recovery. And as far as the beats and, no news is usually good news. So a lot of like misleading, he's doing good. He's going to come back here. He's going to come back for training camp for week 8 might miss the whole season. Honestly, how would you feel about J.K. Dobbins' 2022 season if he had that knee injury in week 8 instead of the preseason?
Terrible.
Instead of the preseason. That's how you should feel about Javonte Williams.
Yeah. I like that, man. I like that you're straight to the point, no bullshit, because this was a one of the worst ACL tears you can have. I'm not a doctor by any means, but it was
No,
on
it was multiple ligaments and meniscus. Yep.
Brutal, absolutely
yes.
brutal.
So yeah,
which was what JK had as well.
I think if anything, Javonte could be worked back towards the end of the season, and maybe that's what we're seeing with this. But either way, final note here, we don't need to discuss it really, but Sam Darnold inks a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with the San Francisco 49ers. Congrats to Sammy. Congrats to Sammy, man. Like, I think there's a chance, knowing the 49ers luck, that Sam Darnold will be playing at some point this season. I don't think it matters for fantasy, but there's a chance with their luck, man. God bless that fan base, those Niners faithful, man, because they put up with a lot of shit. But this is just Kyle Shanahan saying, I'm not getting caught with my feet tucked between my legs this year and not having a damn quarterback in the NFC Championship. So good on you, Kyle. Good on you, Sam. Good on you, Niners faithful, baby. All right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it and round things out tonight with a final round of Ring of Fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got something real special planned for you tonight. This is the Ring of Fire, featuring our special guest, Kyle Scott. Now y'all saddle up, strap in. We're gonna have a real good time.
Ring of Fire. And we're bringing in the fireman himself, Mr. Kyle Scott. Kyle, how we hanging out there? We getting ready for this game, my friend.
Howdy. Yeah, we're ready, I think. I mean, it's a classic game. It's Ring of Fire. We all know how to play, but just in case, it's a simple card game. Seth is going to be flipping over a card, quote unquote. And depending on what's on the card, we're going to be answering a question or a prompt or something of that sort. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We tried to gear these questions more free agency based so we could talk about some of the shitters moving around the league. You know, we got to give some love to old Nate's 2021 all-in, Jonnu Smith. So, I had to make sure he was in this as well. Kyle, let's hit the dusty path here with the first card, brother.
All right, 5 is going to be 5 guys. So you're going to have to pick the correct answer out of the 5 players. So the question being, who scored more rushing touchdowns in 2022? So Tyler Algier, Devin Singletary, David Montgomery, and Antonio Gibson, or Latavius Murray.
Oh, there he is. Big Papa Murray, baby. Matt, start us out, man. You can take your pick, and then we can work up the ladder here.
For some reason, because he got so hot towards the end of the season, I think it's only we're talking 5 touchdowns max between all of these guys.
Yeah.
I think it's Algier.
Oh, okay. Nate, where are you rolling here? You going Algier too? You're muted as well.
I think it is Algier.
I think it's Papa Murray, baby. I think it's Papa Murray. Dude, he went on a run where he was getting 50, 60 yards a game and a tutty every single time out. He was very money. So I'm going to go Papa Murray here. We got 2 for Algier. Kyle, what's that right answer, my brother?
The correct answer is Latavius Murray. He had 6 rushing touchdowns. Tyler Algier only had 3.
Let's go. Where was Monty on that list? 4 or 5? Did he have 5?
He had 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Antonio Gibson had 3, and Singletary also had 5.
Okay. That was good. Good question there, Kyle. Let's flip this next one here. See what we get.
All right. So Jack is going to be.
Oh, there we go.
Never Have I Ever.
Kyle, are you in on this game as well with us?
Yeah.
All right. Matt, I assume you've played Never Have I Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So basically, those new to the show, what we're doing here is we basically go down the line here, saying something you've never done, try to get someone out here. 3 strikes, you're out. Kyle, why don't you start us out this time, man? What do you got?
Sure. Never have I ever been to Canton, Ohio.
Oh, damn. All right. All right.
Sweet.
Boise's down one there early here.
Yeah.
Nate, what do you got, brother?
Oh, never have I ever been to a soccer game.
Okay.
I'm
just
strike-
like
I got 2 strikes on this.
what level of soccer game, Nate?
Above
Yeah.
third grade youth soccer that I had to referee
Oh yeah,
one
no.
time.
I've been to MLS games quite frequently.
I'm talking like college, professional soccer, nothing competitive.
Okay. Never have I ever shit my pants in public.
Oh, I'm still clean.
All right.
I
All
don't
right.
believe
Me either.
you.
Me either. Somehow.
Can I challenge you? Can I play a challenge card?
Me,
Throw a red
me.
flag.
Are you challenging me, Kyle?
Yeah.
What? Have I shit my pants in
I
public?
don't know. You just seem like you have.
I've
Does that-
almost shit my pants in public. I think we've all almost shit our pants in public, but I have
don't
not.
know. I just
Does
I don't-
work-
For some reason, I just don't believe you. I don't know.
Hey,
Does
that's-
work count as public?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I was working in a shop and I sneezed so hard I hit my head on a workbench and sharted at the same time. So I'll own
right.
that.
All right, Nate, go ahead and drink, buddy. You're out. You're out. 3 strikes and you're down. Kyle, let's flip 1 or 2 more cards here and then call it a night, my friend.
Sure. All right, so King is going to be King of the Times. Everyone answers a question about the current time of year. So, how do you hope to spend the first weekend of March Madness?
Ooh. All right, Matt, are you a big March Madness guy up there? And
Winning money. That's
okay.
how I hope to spend the first week of March Madness and the second week and third and fourth.
Okay, Matt, who's your pick? You got any upsets for us this week? We should be tailing.
You
riding Penn State, baby? You riding Penn State?
I'm actually about to say that. I was like, I might have
Let's
to get on
go.
your bone a little bit. There are
Yeah.
a few. Femi's got a whole system going too that I'm tailing a lot of his, but no super upsets. I got like no 16s or 15s if that's what you're saying.
Hey, no, anything that's plus money for the underdogs an upset in my book. So, no, I feel you there. For me, guys, like I love this time of year. Like I'm not a huge college basketball guy. I'm not going to pretend to be. Between NFL and NASCAR, I don't really keep up with anything outside the normal NBA storylines. But there's something about this first weekend of March Madness. Thursday, you better believe I'm going to be sitting here doing some work, getting ready for some shows, but we're also going to be watching some March Madness. Saturday, I got some of my Boise's coming down. We're going to post up downtown at a little bar here in Penn State. Gonna watch the boys. This is the first time Penn State's in the tournament since 2011, so it's a big deal here. I'm really, really excited about it. We're going to post up, hopefully a couple beers, hopefully a couple whiskeys, hopefully some good Morgan Wallen vibes in the background, on those touch tunes. I like to run that a little bit. Nate, you hitting it up with us? What are you doing here for March Madness, my friend?
So I used to be an I did a bracket every year. I filled out other people's brackets. Didn't know anything about college basketball for him because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please do this for me. He's like, I got you. Then I started working in the fantasy football industry, and my brain doesn't have the space at 41 years old for college basketball at this point. So I hope to spend it sleeping in. That's what I'm looking for. I want to spend this first weekend of March Madness.
Lame. I'm sorry.
I'm old and seasoned, Seth. I've been there.
Like Matt
but I do
said,
have a pick for the tournament. It's Kansas.
Okay.
Kansas is going to win.
Oh, that's chalk. 2P. I don't buy it. Kyle, what do you got for the tournament? I know you might be on the road traveling because you work for a college athletic association yourself. But if you weren't, how you posting up this weekend with the games?
Well, I'm just gonna say it all really depends on if Pitt wins tonight. They're in the play-in, and I live in Pittsburgh and work for Pitt, so them winning tonight is gonna be pretty big for my weekend.
Do you have to go to the game if they win?
No.
Okay.
But,
okay.
I mean, we might get free stuff.
Okay. Vibes would be high down there in the Berg for our guys Kyle and Elliot. That's for sure. Yeah,
They're currently down by 1 to Mississippi State with 15-28 left in the second half.
Okay.
So
okay. We got Brad in the chat. He's saying first weekend of March Madness tea party with my 2-year-old daughter. All right, get her in on the fun, baby. As long as your tea's a little Bush Light, Brad, I don't think it'll kill you. You know how
I don't think they have Bush Light in Australia, Seth.
Nah, they should change that real quickly here. Kyle, let's flip one more of these cards.
Fosters.
Let's see what happens. Oh, Jack. Nope, can't do it again.
2.
Nope, not doing that one. Don't want to do it.
Okay. 3 is me. Answer a question about yourself. So describe your ideal boys trip.
Matt, we'll throw it to you, man. I know they throw down a little bit harder up there in Canada. Ideal boys trip. Are you out on the golf course? You out on the lake? What are you doing up there in old Canada?
Man, I mean, I'm getting a little up there in the age as well. I mean, actually, I'm not that old. I'm only 32, but I don't party like I used to. That's for sure. So, an ideal boys trip for me. I mean, I like night on the lake. I like to go fishing still. I mean, I haven't gone,
there we go.
Fishing with my dad in a long time. Part of the reason why I'm thinking about moving back east. Little fishing, little campfire, a lot of drinking, maybe a little bit of something else if we're feeling a little interested. There's a reason that I like all these fancy colors. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. A nice wood cabin too. Like I don't need no electricity and all that stuff.
Little darkness retreat for you.
Put your phones away. Yeah. Maybe a little Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat. Let's just go there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Matt's taking a little ayahuasca trip down here, a little darkness down to Oregon here. Nate, how are you spending a boys' weekend? No kid, no Jen, nothing to worry about. Where you at? No fantasy. What are we doing?
Well, put me on the golf course for 2 rounds of 18 holes. And I want to go to a sports bar and just watch a ton of sports, have some beers, and get to bed at a reasonable hour.
Oh, okay. That doesn't happen with me and my friends, or even with you, Nate. God,
but that's why I want it to happen, because it never happens.
At the Fantasy Football Expo, Nate and I are up chugging beers on the parking garage at 4:00 a.m. Sun's coming up. God damn.
Yeah, that's true. We did do that.
Kyle, you and I, we're trying to have a boys' weekend here in a couple weeks. Scheduling conflicts, ruining that a little bit. But what are we doing for the boys' weekend? What's ideal here?
I don't know. I mean, pretty similar to everyone else's. I mean, I'm cool with the mountains. I want some crisp mountain air.
Okay.
Wouldn't mind some water features, a little lake action on there. I just want a nice campfire.
Yes.
Something like that.
I agree. There's nothing beats hanging with the boys around a fire. Like, if there's a fire going, I won't go to bed a reasonable time. I'll be up there till the next day. I don't give a shit. I love fires, everything about them. Mountain pies, smelling like fucking smoke for a couple of weeks. I'm all about it. So I'm with you there. I think you guys pretty much summed it up. That's where I'm at. Like, good vibes, chilling like we do here on the podcast, but in real life. So I greatly appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. If you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please do so now. We got a lot of cool content coming your way here for the rest of the 2023 off season. Nate, I'm really excited what we got coming down the pipeline. But before I talk a little bit more about that, Matt, how can we best support you, our friend?
You can best support me by downloading the BrotoFantasy app. It's free. You can get it anywhere. It's where all of our content is, all of our exclusive stats, our podcast is on there. It's got everything you need to become a fantasy football expert of your own. And you can also follow me on Twitter at PsychWardFF.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you. Nate, Kyle, appreciate you guys bringing the energy, bringing the vibes tonight. We'll be back here next Tuesday, but we got a lot of content here on the YouTube channel between now and then. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're tuning in. We'll be back here soon, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until then, enjoy the rest of this NFL free agency period and keep it in between.